If you can show somebody you truly understand their problem, they will trust you with a solution. The biggest cringes are all linked towards the clearly unhealthy egos that exist within a good number of real estate professionals. The other thing that I see on repeat that I would like to see stop is the treating of consumers like they're idiots. And being a real estate professional is serious business.
Welcome back to the Light It Up podcast. If you're new to this channel and you want to know everything about making money in real estate, selling, sales skills, building your business, or investing, then subscribe below, tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know what makes our great guests so successful.
And we get calls and texts every single day from people just like you. So whether you're new in the business or looking to grow, hit us up. We're happy to help.
All right. We are super excited to have with us today Phil Jones, author of Exactly What to Say. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Hey, John, great to be here, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for spending some time with us.
It's always a pleasure to have an author on. And I know you had 8 books that were 8 bestsellers, and a pretty cool story behind how you got started, writing too, which we'll get into later today. But super excited and stoked to have you on, man. All right, let's get started with the lightning round.
The lightning round is just a way for us to get to know you a little bit better. Some icebreaker type questions. I'll let KIRO lead.
All right. So who has had the most influence on you growing up?
Who's had the most influence on me growing up? Slightly weird answer. It's probably future versions of myself. It's been my imagination and the imaginary friend that I've had in my head that's given me a good reputation to live up to. But outside of that, the typical stock answers of, my dad's a huge driving influence from a work ethic and point of view. But I'm weird from a mentor point that I've always been creating Frankenstein's monsters of, artificial individuals that are best parts of many.
Yeah.
And use that as a guiding light for growth.
I love that. That's good.
All right. So Phil, tell me, what book changed your perspective on life?
Book that changed my perspective on life. I was very fortunate to study Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People at a very early age. And that has been insanely impactful on who I am as a person, who I am as a friend, who I am as a leader, and how I show up in business.
Yeah, and that's a very powerful book. All right. What by chance encounter changed your life forever?
By chance encounter changed my life forever. I don't believe that many encounters are truly by chance, but if I look for a significant pivotal moment in my life, once upon a time, maybe 2009, 2010, is I made the decision to franchise my sales training business. 10 months later, I made the decision to be able to bring that initiative down because I was attracting the wrong kind of people into the business. And given it was a sales training business, attracting people that couldn't sell was quite clearly a little bit of a red flag. During that process, though, is I'd booked some space at a exhibition called National Franchise Exhibition, or whatever it was, for us to be able to promote, go looking for new franchisees. Bringing this thing down, though, I've now got exhibition space, speaking slot space at an event that is of no value to me. What I managed to do was to be able to get the event organizers to allow me to be able to migrate that to one of their other events, an event called Sales Director Live. And I got to be able to speak at that event, and at that event met a guy in my audience, a guy by the name of Paul Daft, who was the head of training and development for a big healthcare company. And he liked my speech. We got on great. We stayed in contact after that event for the period of about 3.5 years. And 3.5 years later, he books me for a training event for all of their senior VPs of sales globally in Paris. I run a program for those guys there. And this is the head of basically revenue generation for every major country, all in the different verticals.
Wow.
Crushed that 2-day event, got booked then for a number of other tour-based events, including coming across to the US to do an 18-city tour for their customer base. During that tour, I became probably the world's leading authority on hearing aid sales. I went on a number of other tours through the same industry, through that same experience, met the woman that is now my wife.
Nice.
As a result of a chance encounter of just happening to be at the same hotel at the same time as a result of that tour. And I also went on to found a fairly significant marketing agency that just supports independent hearing care clinics with 2 business partners of mine. So that all came just from an accidental mistake that came from there. And I wouldn't be living in the US right now. I wouldn't have my wife and my twin girls here. I wouldn't be having the life that I have here today if it wasn't for that chance encounter.
That's awesome.
Wow. Those are a few chance encounters there, I think.
That's right. Compounding on each other.
Great answer.
There you go. It's a butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So the lesson learned is we got to go on tour.
Yeah, essentially.
And your wife can say that she met you while you were on tour. It makes you
Right.
sound like you're a rock star. I mean, you are a rock star, but you're not, a
And I
musician.
certainly wasn't back then.
Awesome. All right. So I like this one. How do you handle work-related stress?
Often by doing more work.
I'm with you on that, man.
Yeah, if the pressure gets up, what I often do is pick up the pace and try and clear some space by running faster. Yeah. If it's not that, I think sometimes just letting stuff go, like just making a decision to say, I'm going to put my phone in a drawer, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to go to bed, I'm not going to worry about a thing, and I'm just going to pick up on this where I'm fresh and new, can be helpful. I'm pretty stable as a person. I don't panic. I don't worry. I've been through enough stuff in my life that I cope with stress fairly well. But because I know I cope with stress very, very well, it means that I'm also very happy to be very, very stressed, which is not necessarily a good thing. And I guess a more complete answer is I'm working on it.
That's fair.
We all are, right?
Yeah. All right. Last question for you. If you could spend a whole day with someone dead or alive, who would it be and why?
A whole day with somebody dead or alive, who would it be and why? These feel like cocktail party questions that I should have had a bourbon for.
Yeah.
It's not too late.
Again, possibly a cliched answer. I'd have loved to have had a off-the-record full-day conversation with our late Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth. And for somebody that has gone through that number of reinventions and has seen the world change that number of times and had to be in a position of decorum and leadership through that entire period, I'm pretty sure there's a lot I could have learned. And I'm also pretty sure that she took a number of fairly big secrets to the grave that would have been nice to have been able to have some off-the-record conversations about. So there's my answer to that.
Fair. All right, cool.
Love it.
Let's jump right into it. So, Phil, can you take us back to 2012? You were at a mastermind. Can you share with us a story of the bet that you made with yourself?
Yeah, I was at a mastermind group and we were talking about how hard it was to be able to publish books, or at least the others were. And me and my big mouth gets me into trouble and says, no, it's not that hard to publish a book. You could probably turn it around in a couple of weeks. They say, put your money where your mouth is. And here I am needing to turn a book around in 2 weeks. So we produced a little book called Magic Words. And that was created from a PDF that I used the day prior, a training course for some customer service reps in the telco space. And it was 17 sequences of words to help you influence and persuade without sounding salesy. We blew that up into a little book. In fact, I know we're in podcast mode right now.
That's fine.
It's 28 pages now.
Yeah, it's like it's razor thin, and it's like got more white space in it than you could ever imagine.
You said you would turn it around quickly. You didn't say how long it had to be.
I know, exactly. I meant the brief. And what happened with this book was it came at the same time that Amazon was just launching its own self-publishing Kindle platform, KDP. And we plugged it into KDP, and it gave us this offer at the start. It's like, hey, do you want to make it available for a free promotion for a 7-day window? I'm like, well, why not? Plugged it into that, woke up 7 days later, we had 120,000 downloads of this little book. Okay, it wasn't a revenue generator, but it clearly was well liked, had some good responses to it, was useful to people. That was very much the journey into how Magic Words went from being a sprinkling into my speeches and presentations, a useful tool and a giveaway at the end of my trainings, to then a little book that was then lead gen for my organization for a chunk of time, giveaways at the end of events. And actually exactly what to say is the rewrite of Magic Words. It's me doing that book properly that we brought to table in 2017. And yeah, we've now done like 2.7 million copies, translated into 29 different languages. And it continues to run and grow and run and grow.
That's insane, man.
Incredible.
So that was the first book you ever wrote?
I wrote a book prior to that. It was a book called Toolbox. First book I wrote was 2010. And I've since retired that book, like many of us with what we were doing 13 years ago. Your work has evolved past a certain point.
Yeah.
And in many ways, exactly how to sell is in fact a rewrite of the book toolbox.
Got it.
So, there's some overlap in there that what's happened is one has surpassed the other. Therefore, the old one is redundant.
Got it. And so for someone who's watching this, especially when there's a big stigma around sales and what to say, and there's obviously a lot of things involved in communication. What's important about the words that people use in sales? If they say, I don't want to be scripted, I want to be myself, what would your response be to that?
Well, if they say they don't want to be scripted, then the first thing I'd say to that is, have they ever watched a movie that brought them to tears, made them cry? And the answer to that question is almost certainly yes. And they then need to realize that that was just an actor reading a script. No, it wasn't actually an actor reading a script. It was an actor performing a script, which meant that they had to know the script, which means they needed to step into character and stand in front of the words.
Yeah.
But the thing for the actor performing the script was that they needed to be somebody else. The person that you get to be is yourself or a version of yourself. And if you're not deciding what you want to say ahead of time, then what you are is you're winging it, and pros don't wing it. Here is a fact to be aware of, is that you cannot write, perform, and edit at the same time. I repeat, you cannot write, perform, and edit at the same time. What do many real estate agents find themselves doing? Trying to write what they're going to say whilst they're saying it, whilst thinking about the thing they just said. You realize how insincere that is for the person that you're showing up to being able to help? You cannot be in the moment when you're all up in your head.
Yeah.
So how do you get to be in the moment is, well, you realize that some of the best movie moments that ever happened on the planet happened when an actor decided to go off script. Yeah. Now, for an actor to decide to go off script, well, what needed to be true? Well, firstly, there needed to be a script. They didn't wing it. They decided to go off script because in character, in reading the moment, in understanding what was being asked for from the writer, producer, director, whoever, they made a conscious decision with their experience and professionalism to try something in a different way because they believed it would achieve the known outcome at a higher level.
Yeah.
That's what a pro would do in that given moment because they could feel the moment. Yeah. So my advice to be to anybody looking to master their craft in a sales, persuasion, influence point of view is actually know that getting your words ready ahead of time allows you to be more present. It allows you to be able to take the left turn, right turns, about turns that happen in real life and come back with some structure.
Yeah.
It's actually about being responsible towards the other person.
You say that so eloquently.
Yeah.
When I'm trying to convey the same message to other salespeople, I'm like, just read the damn script.
And it's not read the script, it's perform the script.
Perform the script and internalize the script. So like you said, so that you can be present in the conversation and you don't have to just be constantly saying, what am I going to say next?
And if they're not using a script right now, they probably could benefit from realizing that they are. So have them record the next call they have with a client on a Zoom call. Take that call recording, punch it through Otter or rev.com or whatever transcription service that you choose to be able to use, pull out that document, print it on 8.5 by 11 paper and say, here's your existing script. How are you going to make it better?
Yeah.
And they'll look at that and they'll think, which idiot is saying this pile of nonsense? And you're like, that's you, my friend. That is you. Those are your words.
Yeah.
What I would say for scripting, though, and I think this is a real important point, and a mistake that many team leaders make and big organizations, with the desire to scale quickly, you're like, here's the script, just read the script. Here's the script, just read the script. A script, in my mind, should be a Google document, not a PDF. It should be editable at all times. It should be something that people can take full personal responsibility for evolving and conjuring towards their own personalities, their own cadences, their own scenarios, their own strengths. And I think if you can give people freedom within fences to craft, refine, edit, and evolve their own scripts, they take more ownership for it, as opposed to the plug and play, old school, just read this scripted approach that has often existed in real estate.
Yeah. What you said earlier about performing the script, that's, I feel like, the biggest thing that, I want to kind of reiterate again, because communication is 3 parts. You have the words, the tonality, and the body language.
Right.
So you could only use the words, it'll get you so far, but that'll be robotic. But can you elaborate on what you meant by performing the script?
Let's take music as a scenario, right? Is you can take the song lyrics of a song, you can give it to a variety of different performers, and the quality of that performance will be very, very different. And your desire of whether you do or you don't like the song is going to be dependent upon the quality of the performance, not the quality of the songwriting. Yet if you take a well-written song and you give it to a great performer should be able to produce that song to an audience in a variety of different ways, depending upon what the moment is asking for.
Yeah.
You take a great song, an iconic song, name any iconic song that you would choose. What are we going to go with?
What's that one with Bon Jovi? Gotta hold on.
Living on a Prayer?
Yeah, that one.
All right, let's take that. John Bon Jovi, as a masterful performer, should be in the position that he can deliver that song exceptionally with an acoustic guitar in a back bar at 10 o'clock at night to 32 of his best friends.
Yeah.
Whilst also using it to open the show at Madison Square Gardens.
Yeah.
Whilst also using it to be able to do a Super Bowl halftime show, whilst also being able to do it as a support act at a Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah.
Same song, all those different moments performed in a different way, with a different energy, with different timings, with different moments, because you need to read the sentiment of what's being asked of you at that given period of time.
Yeah.
That's why learning to perform is important, because there's a big difference between communicating with, a young couple that are looking to buy their first home versus communicating with an older family that are moving out of their third home, looking to relocate to California and downsize and be empty nesters.
Yeah.
They're different moments, right? Big
Absolutely.
difference between performing your value prop to a seasoned real estate investor than there is to somebody looking to buy their first time investment.
Right.
That's what I mean by performance. And that requires two things. It requires experience and it requires emotional intelligence.
Yeah. I love that you said the emotional intelligence part, because that's a lot of what you talk about in your book. It triggers a lot of that emotional intelligence part of it. Mm-hmm. So obviously we don't want to go through the whole thing, but I know there's a couple of ones in there, especially when going through it. I was like, oh, John uses that all the time. So would it be helpful if he uses that on a religious basis, and there's so much gold in there that you would use, but you would get it almost from the experience of going through, and you'd add more, tools to that tool belt of yours. You'd be like, oh, that actually worked really well. The if then I'm going to keep using it from there. If this would be helpful, if that worked once, you're like, oh, wait, let me add this to the quiver. But you wouldn't know unless you're going through it over and over again, and then adapting with different personality styles and understanding how people would react with certain things. But you won't know unless you're fully present in that conversation, knowing what you're saying entirely.
And we'll take an example from the book that is a common misconception where there can be a misinterpretation. There's a sequence of words in the original book that is, what do you know? It's a preface to be able to challenge the opinion that somebody currently has. Now, if that isn't considered with the right amount of performance and the right amount of tonality that comes to the usage of those words, it could sound aggressive. It could put somebody into a situation where they feel like they're being pressured or where they're back against the wall. Like if I said to you, like, what do you know about interest rates and real estate and the way that things really are? You're like, screw you.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if it's delivered with the right amount of curiosity in tone, which is like, hey, buddy, what do you know about what's really going on with interest rates now, and what would happen if they were to be able to make a massive nosedive downwards? What do you know about what would happen then?
Yeah, that's it.
If it's said with curiosity and some hesitance in its tone, we can get to the point where the other person says, well, not very much actually.
Right.
And we can create a space where you can say, would it help if I shared with you what leading forecasters are predicting will happen in the real estate market if interest rates were to drop? Well, yeah, I guess that would be pretty helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you've got permission to re-educate, as opposed to what many folks try to do is to change somebody's point of view without having been given the permission to suggest an alternative point of view.
Yeah. That's super powerful. The one thing I love about what you just said there, because when I was going through it, I was like, all right, the challenging part of it, I always put the but before challenging. For example, if someone says, oh, I could sell my house for more, I'm like, I could be wrong. But what do you know about the resales that I might not know?
You're negating everything.
Yeah. And then from there, it's just like, it's challenging it, but it's delivered in a way where it's like, you might know more than me, but tell me.
That's right.
And then it's when they hear it from their own mouth, like, I feel, and you're like, how do we prove this?
What I love about what you teach is that, in my opinion, I think a lot of this has to be used either in face-to-face interactions or over the phone. The challenge is, in today's world, everybody wants to become a realtor, get their license, and just sell over text message, right? They can't, it's not even that they can't get in touch with the prospect. They probably don't even try to reach the prospect on the phone. They just try to send a text, and you can get in a lot of trouble with tonality and inflection on text. What would your response be to new sales professionals or new real estate professionals that are trying to sell over text?
I think firstly, we have to accept the fact that text message is now a very viable channel of communication to better get some stuff done. I personally have bought multiple houses where the only interactions have happened via text message. And the first time I got to meet the agent was when it was at the closing table for them to collect their check, right? So I don't think we should try to pretend that going back to the fact that everybody wants to speak on the phone when we know that nobody wants to speak on the phone is too good of an idea. What it does mean, though, is that you have to heighten your awareness to how things can be misinterpreted in a text message, which is in very many ways important. You have what I would call a carpet fitter's mentality. So a carpet fitter will measure twice and cut once.
Yeah.
That way they don't end up having to lose all their margin in replacing somebody else's carpet or flooring. So before you hit send, catch a beat, reread it.
Yeah.
Take a moment and edit. The biggest reason that text messages don't get responded to within the real estate industry is because agents put too many questions in one text.
Yeah.
And then they say things like, oh, the client or the prospect has ghosted me. And I look at it and I'm like, they didn't ghost you, buddy. You just asked them 5 questions in one 250-word text message. They read it, realized they were not able to reply to your car crash of a message in that period of time. What then happened was life went on. Yeah. And now you're on the second screen of text messages. You've been opened but not answered. And also you're not that important. They didn't ghost you. You just got displaced because you're incompetent in your message. The second big reason that text messages don't get replied to is because they weren't phrased as a question and they weren't punctuated as a question. So the number of quote unquote questions that people send to people that are actually crafted as statements without question marks on the end causes a huge amount of no back and forth.
Yeah.
If text message is to be used as a viable tool to be able to create rapport and relationship in a sales environment, you have to allow it to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, which means if you want to do it well, your job is to be the easiest person to reply to. Not the person with the smartest message. Let's just jump to another sequence of words in the book. Opening sequence of words in the book is a rejection-free opening formula, which are the words, I'm not sure if it's for you, but.
Yeah.
Here's what agents do with that is they say, hey, I'm not sure if it's for you, but there is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment that has just become available. It's in the Jersey City Heights area and it's $625,000. And I know that's a little bit more than what you were looking to pay, but the bathrooms are quite nice. And I think that you might want to go and see it. I've attached the photographs.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you gave them everything.
Should have been, I'm not sure if it's for you, but there's an apartment come up that's a little over your budget. I just wondered if you might be able to stretch, question mark, question mark, question mark. Yeah. Now, what have we created? A curiosity gap. Now the person comes back and say, well, what is it? Where is it? Tell me some more about it. You say, well, how do you feel about Jersey City Heights? They say, well, we could be tempted on that. Well, what if I told you it had 3 bedrooms? Well, dang, if it's got 3 bedrooms, we're definitely, right? Yeah. You see how this plays backwards and forwards, etc.
Yeah. It's almost interesting. It is interesting because they're the ones now asking multiple questions.
Correct.
Yeah. When can we see it?
That's right.
How many bedrooms?
Well, the point is to trigger the curiosity, to make them want to go through there. I think the biggest issue going through your question initially is trying to motivate the unmotivated and finding out, like, when you need to be fully influencing and leading and guiding someone, all levels of communication definitely help expedite that process, because that's what sales is, right? Helping expedite a decision. But when someone's motivated through text, you could definitely turn them off by making it seem like it's too complex to deal with you versus making it, like you just said, easy to respond to.
Right.
So that's I think that's a key distinction that's in there. You've had the privilege of being able to go on tour to a lot of real estate offices recently, especially some people that we personally know and had on here as well on this platform. What are some of the things that you see that agents do that you would be like, don't do this again? This is the way that you need to improve it.
What makes you cringe?
The biggest cringes are all linked towards the clearly unhealthy egos that exist within a good number of real estate professionals. Much of this is the overuse of many of the least influential words on the planet. The least influential word on the planet is the word I. I've helped hundreds of homeowners sell millions of dollars of real estate. If it's not the I, it's the my question. Hey, come join my team, my brokerage, my organization, my clients, my territory, my marketing, my people. What it's doing is it's creating this sense of belonging that isn't inclusive or attractive towards the people who are currently outside of that I or my bracket. So that language wise is probably something I see on repeat, on repeat, on repeat. The other thing that I see on repeat that I would like to see stop is the treating of consumers like they're idiots. And being a real estate professional is serious business. You're helping people navigate one of the most complex transactions of their life. Not necessarily the biggest purchase of their life, one of the most complex, because it is a logic and emotion cocktail that is real, right? Like the numbers are big, the outcomes are big, the consequences of getting it wrong are big, the marry the house and date the rate. Stupid, lazy statements like this that don't give enough emotional intelligence to what somebody is trying to navigate at this moment in time are things that give real estate agents a bad name.
Yeah.
What I love about this as an industry is that the barrier to entry is very, very low. The quality of training at scale is not so great, and the income potential is massive. What I hate about this industry is that the barrier to entry is ridiculously low, and the quality of training is inconsistent at best, and the opportunity to make money is like abundant. So it means that you do get the best and the worst.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, the self-loving piece is huge, and the treating of consumers without enough just respect, I would say, is to what they're being asked to make a decision over.
Yeah.
And seeing them as just a dollar sign and not, real human looking to be able to navigate a real set of situations.
Yeah.
Even down to content I see online all the time is, why now is the best time to buy a house, and why is now the best time to sell a house? Is today a good day to buy? I mean, it depends, right?
Yeah.
And is it a good time to sell? Maybe, but it depends. Showing that you care about helping people step into home ownership or lower their cost of living or create a home environment that's more conducive towards what their family need at that given period of time heightens the quality of the profession as a whole.
Yeah.
Whereas looking like the only thing that you're interested on is growing your own fame and making a ton of money is actually not very attractive to the uneducated consumer and plays right into the hands of everybody else.
Right.
I love how you said that. And it really goes down to motivation, and it goes to emotional intelligence, like you said earlier. And motivation, when you break it down, it's two things. It's motive to take action.
Yep.
So when you're trying to decide, convince people to do something, then that can come off as slimy, and that's the counter effect.
Yep. And in a market like the one that we're in right now, is you slow the process down, you'll speed the outcome up. Yet what people are trying to do is they're trying to push so hard to speed up a decision when somebody is currently undecided. And the result is a confused buyer or a confused seller. And I think many agents now are looking around and saying, have I got the right support infrastructure? Have I got the right people around me? Am I in the right business model? Am I set for success to be able to ride out the next decade? And realizing the answer to that question is probably not. Realizing they need to make a change. And now anybody who has an alternative offer is like preying on them,
right,
and telling them the my dad's better than your dad story in the best way they possibly can, trying to convince somebody to come across to the greener grass on the other side of the fence. If you could just slow that conversation down and show genuine interest in the other person and their goals and their experience and their aspirations and what it was that they were trying to achieve and what's gone right in their career up until right now and what they've liked about the service and the support they've had elsewhere and what they might like to be able to see different in the future, slow that whole conversation down. Then when somebody makes a decision to make a change, it's a fully committed decision.
Yeah.
It's not a half-baked decision. Yeah. Same with buyers and sellers right now. Every decision needs to be fully committed, which is not why should I choose you or why should I buy now or why should I sell now? It's I should know for certain that I definitely don't want any other option. Therefore, you are the right choice.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to stay where I am right now renting, so therefore I need to buy. I definitely don't want to live in this house for the rest of the time, overpaying, managing on space, etc., etc. So now it's the right time to sell. And you don't need 300 good reasons to do something. You need to realize there's not one good reason why I shouldn't.
That's so good. I don't know who said this, but they're saying people with lower IQs are better at sales, right? And it's I almost believe that now, and I'm thinking about it because of the fact that I have a bunch of people that I've interacted with that are very intellectual, but then they focus on the logical aspect of it, but not on the emotional things that are triggering people to do those. Like if they're living in a tight house and they need to upgrade to get bigger space, they'll focus on the aspect of actually the process of how to sell the house, not on the what's
important.
Yeah, what's it causing you by staying in this house? Is it an option to stay here for another 2 years? And like going through that, which is very interesting. But how do you get someone to be open, or how do you get someone to go into the EQ part of sales?
People just need to care.
Yeah, I think it just comes back to asking better questions. You know, it's not about so many realtors, I think, you know, make it all about them. Well, I can sell the house for you and I can sell it this quickly and I've sold 10 homes in your neighborhood, instead of saying, well, what's important to you about selling? What's important to you about being there by November 1st? What's important to you about, you know, making sure you get $1 million?
Yeah.
Well, if we want some structure here that can help the agent community as a whole to level up their EQ, there's a simple approach to questioning that is game changing when applied towards real estate. And it's a past, present, future arc. So how do you create an arc that goes past, present, future? The mistake that many people make, even from a listing appointment point of view, they show up to a listing appointment and they talk about present and future, present and future, present and future. They miss past. Somebody comes to be able to go and view a house that they're potentially interested in buying. What does the agent talk to them about? Present and future, present and future, present and future, and they miss past. If you miss the chance to talk about past in an early conversation, you can't go back to it. You can't ever get back to that conversation with it feeling natural. But if you go to meet a homeowner for the very first time that is thinking about potentially selling and they're interviewing other agents, how easy would it be to be like, how long have you guys been here?
20 years.
Okay. What made you decide to move to this area 20 years ago?
It was a job transfer.
Okay. So how's it worked out for you? Have you liked the neighborhood over that 20-year period?
We fell in love with it, but the colds are too harsh to deal with.
Okay. And what made you buy such a big house?
We were expecting to grow. That's you know, we wanted to build a family here and not have to relocate, you know, multiple times in between.
Okay. And how did it work out for you over that 20-year period?
Well, we're still here.
Yeah. So why the change now?
We can't shovel the snow anymore. We're a couple months away from retirement, so there's no real need to stay here, pay these crazy Jersey taxes. And it's time to enjoy the fruits of our labor.
Okay. So the house has been good for you for a period of time, and that time's now passed, and now you're looking to move on.
That's correct.
What'd I do? I just moved you out the house.
Yep.
Right? So that past chapter is so easy to be able to look at and collect some emotional intelligence. Right? What have I learned? I've learned about the shoveling of snow. I've learned that you grew your family there. Your family's new moved on. I've learned that you're retiring and that your plans are to be able to go somewhere new.
Yeah.
Before I even talk about selling the house, is I'd then go, like, okay, we got the past, we got a little of the present, let's bounce to the future. So where are you going from here then?
Florida.
Okay, why Florida?
You know, there's the tax benefits, and we can get a lot more for the space, for the money.
Okay. Whereabouts in Florida are you planning to go?
Del Rey.
Okay. Have you been looking at many of the properties down there already? Have you been and seen stuff?
Online, we've looked at a couple of options, but we figured once we have a solid game plan here, we'll go down there and check out some real options.
Okay. And who are you working with down in Florida as a real estate professional?
We haven't decided yet because, you know, it seems a little premature, but we will once we get down there.
Okay. Well, would it help if I hooked you up with an experienced professional down there too, so that they could maybe just keep an ear to the ground of the sort of things you might be looking for?
You can do that? That'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. We can take care of that for you as well. Like, I'm not talked about anything in a listing point of view right now, but this person wants to move to Florida. They don't want to sell the house.
Yeah.
They want to move to Florida. So this whole conversation is now having them realize that I'm aligned to help them find the right place, removing friction of getting them down to Del Rey.
Yeah.
Okay, so to get you to Del Rey and to get you to there in the quickest period of time, I'm guessing that you want to sell this house for the most money in the quickest period of time with the least amount of hassle?
Yeah.
Would it help if I explained to you how we might better do that for you?
Yeah, let's do it.
And now you can get into a listing presentation. But you've got purpose behind it. What most do is they show up and they say, I ran the comps and here's the numbers and here's all the things that makes us different to the guy down the street. But nobody gets to a point of actually really understanding the objectives, the past, and the full context of what that family is trying to achieve at that period of time.
Yeah.
Easiest way to stand out is past, present, future. And it's the easiest way to start growing your bank of emotional intelligence, because they're going to feed you pieces of information that you need to ask more about.
Yeah. No, that's
and
golden.
need to slow down and get some more context. And there's a simple rule that's worthy of hyperfocus, is if you can show somebody you truly understand their problem, they will trust you with a solution. If you try to sell somebody on your solution, they'll work hard to explain that they don't have the problem.
Well said. Yeah.
That's very good.
Well, I think my interpretation of that, or what I think of, is all these investors and these buyers who will call a listing agent and say, I can pay cash and close in 30 days. My first question always is, well, how do you know my seller wants to close in 30 days? What if my seller actually would prefer to close in 90 days? But if you had asked me when the ideal closing date is, or what the ideal time frame is, I would have told you 90 days or 60 days. Instead, you're just presenting me with you think I might want to hear.
Yeah.
It's important for people to understand that you almost have to play that card on the listing agent if you are a buyer. Like if you're representing a buyer, you have to display the competence and confidence to the other agent that you can get the deal done for them to be able to pick your offer. And that's by asking a lot of detailed questions. What's important to the seller? What are they looking for? How can we make an offer that's going to be acceptable to stand out more than anything else too?
And an offer that stands out could be that we will close on the day of your choosing at any point within the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's golden. The one thing that you said I want to highlight on it, there was a book that we read in a book club. It was called Versatile Selling. And they were talking about the 4 different personality styles. And the common trait against all of them, and it's like they do not do, is be transactional or pass on or pass along. Everybody wants to be treated a certain way, but no one wants to be passed along as if they're just like a plan B or just transactional aspect of it. So I think that's super important. And I love how you put it together. Now, with agents who are getting in the business and want to learn these skills, what are some of the first things that they need to learn, the stepping stones to become more experienced in the right way without building bad habits?
I think, experience is the greatest of teachers, right? So you just need to get your feet wet and get in amongst the mess and accept the fact that you're going to make a number of mistakes.
Yeah.
You can fast track that experience by being part of a great team, learning from other people who've walked the path ahead of you, being curious about their experience, getting them to tell you the stories of their experience, where they got it right, where they got it wrong, etc. And borrowed experience is pretty darn useful whilst you're earning your own.
Yeah.
So I definitely look to be able to do that. Also, if I'm a newer agent and I'm looking to grow in confidence, is I'd find excuses to start meaningful conversations with people who've transacted on real estate transactions recently. Friends, family members, past clients, etc. Is I'd be looking to interview them, discuss with them, whether formally or informally, about things they liked and disliked about their experience in the home buying or selling process. Because now what I'm doing is I'm getting this texture and tapestry of people's real world emotional journeys going through something that worked. And now when you find yourself in front of a buyer or seller, you've got all these voices in your head that are now borrowed stories and borrowed experience that can help you until you get a chance to be able to grow into your own close.
Yeah.
Outside of that is role play like crazy, because the likelihood of you being more and more ready for real world scenarios is only going to be amplified if what you've done is you've rehearsed them back of house.
Yeah.
When it comes to role play, though, is people often get it wrong, particularly with exactly what to say material. And what they try to be able to do is, like, oh, let's do a word a day for each of our team meetings and these things. And it's and they try and learn the words. It's not learning the words, it's learning moments that's going to allow you to be more persuasive when those moments come up. It's not about remembering the words. It's about understanding what moment you might need to be in where that word would make sense.
Yeah.
So 2 really useful applications of particularly what team leaders can do to help train their teams and what newer agents can do in their own time to get better is take a book like Exactly What to Say or Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents. Pick any one sequence of words, and as a team lead, decide that today we're going to be obnoxiously using that one sequence of words and that one sequence of words only. So say, for example, it's most people Monday. So we're going to decide we're going to use the words most people in context as many times as we possibly can in this next 24-hour window. at Starbucks, at the gym, when I'm at home with my friends, geez, when I'm in the bedroom, when I'm with clients, anywhere else that you could be, you're going to use the words most people in context. And if you stretch that muscle out far enough in all of these low stakes environments and everyday environments, it won't go back to where it was. And now what you've got is you've got an obnoxious amounts of reps of utilizing that sequence of words in practice.
Yeah.
We then lay this on this way as well. We build a mesh. So take any critical conversation that is happening in your world right now. Let's just take the interest rates conversation, right? We know that is hot topic for buyers and sellers at this moment in time is interest rates conversation. Mm-hmm. So take the whole book and say what we're going to do is we're going to craft an example of how we would use that sequence of words when speaking to a buyer about interest rates. And you're going to take every sequence of words in the book and rewrite an example just through that one lens of interest rates conversation and see if what you can do is make it fit in every scenario. You should be able to make it fit in every scenario. You will, though, realize that in some scenarios it works better than in others. Some words support that scenario better than others.
Yeah.
The realizing that like you have super efficacy in one scenario, one sequence of words, and less efficacy in other scenarios, that's how we're growing emotional muscle power. Because you're like, I could use it there, but I probably shouldn't. Because this would be better. Keep doing that on repeat. And we've got role play working at a new level. And I should tell you guys as well is we're just about to launch a brand new product with exactly what to say. And you started the interview looking at flashcards to help you come up with better questions. Look at what we're about to launch.
Love it.
Is exactly what to role play. And it's just for real estate. So we've made it specific for real estate. 3 different types of cards. One is the sequences of words. The other is scenarios, like open house, listing presentation, online lead. Like we've got 30 odd different scenarios.
Nice.
And then we've got all of the common objections that could exist in those scenarios. So as a team lead or individually, you're like, okay, well, what's my situation? What's my set of words that I've got to be able to help me out of this situation? And what's the potential point of friction that exists within the buyer or seller at that moment in time? Turn your cards, you've got to be able to make it work. Somebody has a go, somebody else makes it better, somebody else refines it.
I love that.
There's so many different ways that you can work it. And yeah, that's exactly what to say.com/role play. If anybody is interested in that they are on pre-order right now. And they're about to be shipped in the next 2-3 weeks. So
awesome.
Pretty excited about
I'm definitely getting
working them in the real world.
That's awesome.
Real estate agents need as much help as they can get.
Yeah.
And they will also buy anything that they think will help their sales and performance. So I'm sure you'll be successful with that.
Well, it forces creativity as well.
Yeah.
That's what I like about that is if you've got, 15 of your agents getting together for a role play session in 45 minutes before you're going to go out and meet some clients.
Yeah.
Most of that 45 minutes is spent saying, well, what scenario shall we role play? What
do you want to work on today?
That's right.
Yeah. The prep.
And before you know it, the time window has disappeared and you didn't really achieve that much.
Yeah.
The game just says, right, we're pulling cards and the game decided what we're going to go do. And it actually forces people to be creative because somebody else didn't have to do the thinking for them.
Yeah. The one thing that you said that I absolutely loved is that you have to stretch that muscle. The sales stuff that we
and once
learned,
you stretch it, it won't go back.
Well, you constantly have to use it though, right?
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say is that when we were learning this thing, I was 18 when I started. I would do it at bars.
He still does.
I still do it at bars, but it works in all elements. So when you get that confidence, you're like, holy shit, this is a way of life. This is amazing. It becomes absolutely golden.
It'll be closing time at the bar. The lights are on, and I'll walk over to try to get him, and he's doing NLP on some young lady.
But it all works. It's all communication, and it makes it very effective.
I think it's imperative now, particularly within real estate, though, is to remind folks of that type of prospecting. Real estate is one of the few industries where every adult is a prospect.
Right.
Like literally every adult is a prospect. And the last decade within real estate in the surgence of the internet, people have said somebody is only a prospect once they've raised their hand and said, I'm interested in seeing 123 Main Street, or can you give me a CMA on my home? The truth of the matter is everybody's a prospect.
Right.
And my rally cry to the industry as a whole right now is please do not pay for leads in 2024 that you could have earned in 2023.
Yeah.
Like, can you get to people earlier in the race? And I'd be networking and having conversations more colloquially and friendly, building my 24, 25, 26 pipeline today.
Yeah.
And if I'm serious about a career in real estate, then I think you should be able to tell me about the 8, 10, 12 families that you're pretty darn certain are going to make a move in 25, and how you're staying in contact with them, and what events you're inviting them to, and how you're making sure that you're supporting them in that decision-making process, even though the transaction might be 30 months away.
Yeah. That's super important.
Yeah. You even talk about this in your book, and it's also a shift of mindset. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So it's a timing issue more than anything else. So if that frame of mind shifts, then everybody's a prospect, like you just said.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you're helpful to somebody that's looking to buy or sell in 30 months' time, and you demonstrate help to them over that period of time, everybody they speak to is going to introduce you.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though they might have never bought or sold through you, if they see you as their guy or girl, they're happy to share you with others.
Yeah. I hate to use the word blessed because everybody uses it these days, but we are blessed to be in an industry where everyone is a prospect. I think of other people who sell, I don't know, mutual funds or even like medical devices, right? Like they have a specific clientele that they're looking for. Our clientele or our prospects is literally anybody. Now, maybe not everybody's a buyer in your certain price point, but everybody at least wants to talk about it that could potentially refer you to somebody else.
There's a ratio that I found to be true in every single industry on the planet. If you can meet with 10 people that meet your target market, 5 of them will have a genuine need for your product or service, and 2 of them will go on to be able to do business. The mistake that many make is they say, well, give me the 5 and I'll get the 2, or just give me the 5 and I'll get the 2. You need to meet the 10 to find the 5 to get the 2.
Yeah.
And people have missed that level of work ethic to get through in order to be able to achieve those outcomes. And the magic comes, though, is the 5 that weren't right in the 10 to the 5 help you find your next 10.
Yeah.
That's what keeps the game in motion. That's what keeps you farming for new opportunities. And we've got so good at marketing that we forgot how to sell. People are viewing selling as only the final mile closing part of the transaction, not the prospecting, opportunity creation, networking part of sales that is so important if you want to outperform market positions.
Yeah. And it's so important in today's market because everybody, who, especially in agents, were order takers during 2020 and 2021, that they were just, okay, you want to buy this house? Okay, great. But
if you want to win today, you got to learn how to take an unfair share of the market.
Yeah.
You could have made good money in 2020, 2021, just taking your share of the market.
With
you need
no
to
skills.
Have an unfair share of the market. If you want to win, you want to take more than your fair share.
Yeah.
Because your fair share is probably not enough.
Yeah. What I'll say in closing is this: everything that you put in exactly what to say and exactly what to say for real estate agents is literally a easy cheat code for everybody who's looking to know what to do and what to say, that people would take years of experience to aggregate all that information together. So first and foremost, thank you for putting that together. It's absolutely incredible. And what's the best way for someone to reach out if they wanted to get more proximity to you or collaborate?
Yeah, I mean, drop by exactlywhattosay.com, philmjones.com, that you'll find a huge amount of additional resources there. If people want to continue the conversation, then I would say probably Instagram's the best place to come find me, at philmjonesuk. Shoot me a note, tell me that you heard the Light It Up podcast and that you want to continue this conversation on here. Say that you're a fan of John and KIRO, and I'll be happy to continue the conversation from there.
Awesome.
Sounds good, man. Absolute pleasure having you on.
Well, thank you so much.
Pleasure being here.